Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am here to talk about whatever you guys want, but mostly ice and fire. Um, so I want to talk about Garrett again, and I know like Garrett's been coming up quite a bit, because I just did the reading of and went over the prologue and then Ned's execution of him, and I'm always surprised that when I do something when I talk about things that I think are pretty clear cut, like morally, how often I get pushback, and it always really surprises me. I'm like, really, like in this situation that it's so utterly obvious that like the killing of Garrett is unjustified, or that it's at least you see that it's the author's intent that they're trying to show this. How far I get, like how much I get pushback from people that are like, in the comments saying like, no, what are you talking about? Like Garrett was a deserter. Um, you know, they usually have like a few arguments, like Garrett's a deserter, it's the law, or it's the custom at the time is usually like another one as well. But I want to explore this a little bit and just talk about Garrett for a second. So, keep in mind, Garrett was a man in his 50s who had been in the Night's Watch for 40 years, which means he joined the Night's Watch as a child. Now, we don't know what the circumstances were, like when he was a child. Like maybe he committed a crime and was sentenced as a child to join the Watch, or maybe he was pressured as a child to go into the Night's Watch. But whatever the case is, he joined the Night's Watch as a child and served 40 years. 40 years in the Night's Watch. In a sense, he put in his time. He put in a lot of time, and I would argue probably he was probably shouldn't have joined the Night's Watch in the first place, considering he was a child and at the time. And it was what's funny is, of course, we are faced with Jon Snow joining the Night's Watch, and Jon Snow is a child, and Ned doesn't think he's ready to join the Night's Watch. That, oh, this is only for, this is for adults. This isn't for children. Like how like it would be wrong for me to expose you to that sort of thing. So that's the first thing. Let's just get on Garrett's character. Then Garrett, he is put in a situation where he very clearly, for his own survival and wills, like should have killed Waymar Royce. Waymar Royce was getting them killed. He should have, stopped him in a sense of self-defense. But Garrett was not the type of man to kill Waymar. He was the type of man to follow orders. And later, when Jeor Mormont talks about Garrett, he talks about him as a man who would follow orders. That he was the last person that he thought would desert. So Garrett was a loyal man. And so, he's clearly, when he does desert, he's massively terrified. He has PTSD. Ned can't understand really a word he's saying. Some people confuse the show and the book with Will in the show and say, well, like, oh, he knew it was a capital crime and he knew it was wrong and he should have gone back to Castle Black and all that. But like, let's not confuse like the book and show here. But like, Garrett is just like gone loony. He's so scared. And so, once you look at all those situations, like in modern times, in our American system, we would just say, well, the guy's had insanity or whatever. He has PTSD. We'd cut him a break. We kind of all understand that level of mercy. And we hear in the story, like justice without mercy is like a horrible thing. There's nothing more scary than a truly just man. All of the sorts of things. It's very clear that the author does not think that Garrett should be killed. This is something that that you can only really come to the conclusion that Gared should be killed if you know nothing really about the whole situation. Like, you don't believe it, you don't think about the others and stuff like that. Now, Ned himself, and some people say, well, Ned didn't know this information. Well, here's the problem with Ned, is that Ned's justification for killing Gared is not even, it's the law or it's a custom of the time. Okay. Ned's justification for killing Gared is he is a deserter, and therefore he is dangerous because he has lost everything. So he will, hurt people in society. It's a public safety issue is what Ned puts forward. But of course, we know that to be a sham. We know that Gared wasn't going to hurt anybody. He was just scared and running. Okay. Plus, going beyond that, think about what a horrible belief that Ned has, that we can now judge people on crimes they have not committed. Like, he is not judging Gared and sentencing him to death really on his desertion. He's sentencing him to death on the idea that he might cause harm to other people. Just think about that. Like, just if you had that idea about future crime and all of that, like what that would do with demographics, like who's most likely to hurt people and things like that. Well, I guess we can inflict justice on them. Now, most of the now some people might say, well, Preston, this is your opinion, but the thing about opinions is not all opinions are equal, and I don't mean it in some like arrogant sense that like my opinion is somehow better than others. I'm saying is that some opinions are internally consistent and some opinions aren't. So say you're the type of person that thinks that like, well, the law is the law, and therefore, what is Carmine sending me this? What is anyway, so say you believe that the law is the law and we need to follow the law. You're essentially saying that the law is always right, and that's what morality is, and there are no unjust laws. You should never try to change the law because all law is just, and that's somehow, and using that criterion, you got to remember that like Ned's execution is within the law. Like, Ned gets his comeuppance in the end. He had a coup against the king. The king killed him. Okay. And whatever the king does is law, because that's where we are in feudalism. Or Jaime killing Aerys. Like, he broke the law there too. Is Jaime killing Aerys considered a bad thing? Or the very clear situation where Jon fucking deserts, okay? And I'm not talking about A Dance with Dragons. I'm talking about a Game of Thrones. Jon deserts. He should have been killed. But what does Mormont do? He gives him mercy. And is like, yeah. So these people that are like, oh, Gared was a deserter. He was... Well, Jon Snow was a deserter. You're saying that Mormont should have executed Jon Snow in a Game of Thrones. And once you ask these people about these questions, oh, well, no, they'll come up with some reason. But it's really like, oh, what did the protagonist do? Whatever the protagonist did was right. Ned was justified because I like Ned or I like Sean Bean. The other thing people put forward is like the custom of the time. And the custom of the time has a lot of problems to it. First of all, if you say custom of the time, that means you're saying, oh, so slavery's fine, child marriages are fine, arranged marriages are fine, but also this isn't, the customs are like the law being put in it's not like this is a democracy even, okay? These are elites like setting the laws. So it's not even like the people are establishing this custom. It's a bunch of elites that are putting it in. And in all of this, you have to also remember that, with George R. R. Martin's beliefs, which are throughout the entire story, George claims he doesn't write an allegory, but it's one of those things like, come on, with some stuff, you're like, come on. Like, you're not reading an allegory? Come on. Like, Danny being unable to keep control of Slaver's Bay, like, really, that's no allegory to like Vietnam or Iraq or any of that. You didn't think about that at all, like, or the fact that in stories, in like appearances, you talk about dragons being nuclear weapons. Like, you're not talking an allegory, fine, but whatever. He says that he doesn't do it consciously, but he says maybe it happens subconsciously. He admits. You got to remember that, like, George is obsessed with Vietnam and talks about Vietnam all the time, and his writing is all about Vietnam. And the George was a conscientious objector. And when he talks about conscientious objection, like, when he tells these stories, he immediately starts talking about the other conscientious objectors who had to go to Canada. And he doesn't begrudge them. He probably would have done the same, he says, had he not gotten it, had he not got his CO status. And so, and he even talks about, like, when he got his CO status, he thinks that perhaps he got it because they thought he would like be marked his entire life as a traitor or something. And so, like, calling Gared like a traitor or deserting, you have to think about like what George feels about like Vietnam and the conscientious objectors who like fled to Canada and things like that. Anyway, all these things, to think about, but remember, like, the most basic is like, Jon deserted and we don't think he should have been killed. Why would you possibly think that Gared should have been killed? Anyway, what's next here? What's next? I just gotta eat something here real quick. All right. There it is. People bitching at me all the time about needed to eat noodles on stream. All right. Yeah, some people even think that the singer that Arya killed deserved it, which is also ridiculous considering that, like, yeah, like, Darian, says he was innocent the whole time, and we have no reason to think that he wasn't innocent. And then somehow, like, Arya, like, kills him. But yeah, it's the exact same thing. Again, you're supposed to think of it kind of being creepy. You and Carmine Everton met personality Dada. I think this have Carmine met ever? Probably they're asking if we ever met in real life, which we have not. We've never met in real life. I've often been abroad or on the East Coast, and Carmine lives in he lives in like really rural area of Kansas. He barely has electricity. He like draws water from a well and stuff like that. He lives off the land. It's a rough life for him. Garrett's purpose was leading the mother direwolf through the same tunnel that Sam used for Bran. Garrett complimented Sam as Night's Watch deserters. There is a lot of mysteries about how Garrett got through the wall and how Mama Direwolf got through the wall. It's never been told to us. Fan headcanon is that Garrett went through like the Black Gate, or somehow, I mean, he was in the Night's Watch 40 years, but more years than Mormont. Like, he knows it inside and out. Craster liked him. He might know all sorts of secrets. So it may be that like Garrett knew about the Black Gate and got through that way. It may be that Garrett, climbed the wall, the other gates are all sealed. So he absolutely didn't go back to Castle Black. Some people assume that, but I mean, Mormont specifically brings up like him not coming back. So Gared had to either, I mean, he either climbed the wall or he went through a gate. But remember, people wonder about Gared, but um, later we run into Osha, and she's with Night's Watch deserters too, and they've gotten past the wall, and no one ever like is like, how did Osha get past the wall? Like, I don't know. I just climbing the wall apparently is pretty easy. I don't know, despite Jon making it seem so tough. Um, I don't know. It's just never explained. It's never explained. We need maybe there's just a big hole that everybody that the characters haven't learned about yet. Um, Ned was right. He even killed Arthur Dayne. It would be funny if Garrett is actually Arthur Dayne, but he's been in the Watch 40 years. He can't be Arthur Dayne though. Might be somebody else. The Gared, the others let him live for whatever reason. They let him live. I mean, it may be that he just got on his horse and rode, and the others were like, "Yeah, we can't run that fast," you know. Um, that's it. Um, which two companies would you like to be sponsored by? I don't know. I've never thought about something like that. Um, you know, trying to think of like the companies that I use the most. Like get sponsored by Chipotle. Um, it's I'm trying to think of any other companies that would be nice I mean, obviously there's things I use. Obviously, I use um, uh, Apple products and eat at Chipotle and buy clothing for my children from Carter's. I mean, I'm not. I consume like anybody else, and it's fine. It's fine. I drink my Coca-Cola. Um, but I don't know. I don't know how many companies I judge as being great companies or good companies. I just, consuming is like this little lesser evil. I mean, that you do in order to survive day to day. Did you see George's post about writing dreams? This is very funny. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up because it's hilarious. Um, this is the latest cope from from the fandom about George. Okay, this is quite funny. Um, all right, so it'll shrink me. Here's George's blog. He wrote, "Words of wisdom. Dreams only have one owner at a time. That's why dreamers are lonely. Dreams have only one owner at a time. That's why dreamers are lonely." William Faulkner. Contemplative dreams writing. Okay. All right. Here's the cope. Okay. Words of wisdom. WOW. Winds of winter. Blue rose. R plus L equals J Lyanna stuff. Bale the Bard. Dreams of spring. Dreamers, dream of spring. What the and then I don't know if there's anything with the current mood, but yeah, this is. I mean, I don't know if like how ironic like people were being with that, but like, oh my god, I saw it and I was like, oh really, you're going with that. But man, um, Mm-mm-mm. Let's see. Um, PJ, what do you think on Greenleaf's Werewoods from the 2024 calendar art with Rhaegar and Lyanna? Oh, really? Let me bring this up. This is um is this oh my goodness. Well, I mean, first of all, I can't believe they did such a fan headcanon like kind of piece of art here. Okay. Let me can I shrink this? This is such fan headcanon, right? Oh my god. Um I mean this might as well be right out of the my the fanfic. Um so here what appears to be Rhaegar seeing a woman who looks like Lyanna in front of a werewood and meeting them. Now, the headcanon about this is that if Lyanna is the Knight of the Laughing Tree and Rhaegar was supposed to track down the Knight of the Laughing Tree and they found the Knight of the Laughing Tree's um, armor up a werewood, like then Rhaegar had gone and had caught her and in front of the werewood and they talked and then they fell in love. This is all fan headcanon, okay? There's nothing that supports that. Now, despite all of that, we put actually a scene like that in the fanfic of them like being in front of the werewood and having a conversation. It wasn't exactly like them falling in love or you're so dreamy. It was a little more complicated than that. But it's amazing that like somebody did that art based on that fan headcanon. And then George was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Stamp of approval. Looks great. But does this have, it's hard to tell if these are green leaves, but nonetheless, this picture is a fascinating picture just in the sense that like it's such fan service. But I guess those might be green leaves up there. But that's how careful they were. Man, did they put blue? Are these blue roses down here? What are these blue rose petals? What kind of bullshit? What kind of crap is that? You know, A Song of Ice and Fire, the most romantic story in the world, most romantic story. Rhaegar and Lyanna. What a wonderful romance. Not creepy at all. What a how Oh God, I just who did this? I mean, it's just like who would when I read A Song of Ice and Fire, in between all of those stories about brains exploding on the battlefield and Cersei licking semen off her hands and thinking about and and Sam's fat pink mast. The only thing I think of is the wonderful romantic tale between Rhaegar and Lyanna. How romantic! But it's man, it's so fan servicey. Um, hey Preston, are you going to check out the cherry blossoms? I haven't been in years. Do you know if it's changed at all? I do know. I know a lot about the cherry blossoms actually, having been a big DC resident for a long time. So the cherry blossoms, you used to be able to like go down to the mall and go see them, and then it became really massive, and it's very, 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 very crowded. Um, if you go down, I suggest during a weekday or something, or try to take public transit rather than driving. It's a lot. Now there are other places in DC though where you can go see the cherry blossoms. Um, there's and some of them they bloom like the next week in case you've missed it and stuff like that. And so you should research. There's actually a good like half dozen alternate spots in DC that you can go to see the cherry blossoms that are pretty good. There's like a manor down in Glover Park, um, that that has a bunch. There's a place up in Bethesda, this I want to say Somerset, that has like a whole neighborhood as like filled with like a cherry blossoms and stuff. So I mean, obviously going down to the tidal pool, it's beautiful if you can get a good shot of Jefferson and the cherry blossoms. But there are other, if you want to beat the crowds, there are other places. But it is super crowded on the weekends to try to see it. But cherry blossoms are in bloom right now, so you gotta go see them now. But again, if you miss it, there's other places in the DC area you can go. But it's gotten pretty out of control. Out of control. Um, dun, dun, dun. Pasta stream, pasta stream. What are the top 3 changes in the show from the book? Are we talking this is like positive ones versus negative ones? Because there's a lot of weird negative ones, but if we're talking the top positive ones, Carmine and I agree that we like the fact that they removed Dany totally being into her wedding night and made it more realistic. I thought that was a better move. I also always compliment the show for removing a lot of the magic and grounding it a little more than the book, making things a little more. I'm trying to think if like some of the things they removed magically. Like for instance, with Shadow Babies, they specifically have Melisandre say like, if you give this drug to somebody, they'll hallucinate, and so it may be that Davos just saw a hallucination rather than Shadow Babies. Trying to think of like other things they removed. I don't know. In general, it just kind of had a less magical feel. And then I'm trying to think some other good changes. I mean, I think putting in Tywin, like replacing Tywin for Roose Bolton when talking to Arya, is a really good change. Charles Dance did a good job there, and that seemed to work. There's certain things I agree. Like I think that I'm completely fine with them. Oh yeah, Tywin has the Carmine sends me a message saying Tywin being introduced by cutting up the stag. That was kind of interesting. I don't mind Jock and Hagar replacing the kindly man at the House of Black and White. I think that seems like a completely logical thing to do. Trying to think of some other good ones where I'm just like, oh yeah, no, that was better. But I don't know. There's a lot of there's a lot of things where I understand why they did it, but I'm not sure if it was the best choice. Like north of the wall being just a frozen tundra, it looks cinematically better. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like now there's not like woods, and how are these wildlings really surviving? Like, stuff like that, where it's like, why it looks cinematically better. It looks really cool to see all these big like frozen tundras and everything, but come on, I think in general, like how Ygritte was portrayed was better. I think Osha was portrayed better. I think show Ygritte's better than book Ygritte. I think show Osha is better than show the book Osha. Um, a lot of little things like that. A lot of actor performances that are good. I'm just trying to think of anything else that's really sticks out as a good choice. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. Mm, 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 mm. Let's see. Um, have you ever read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn? I I get asked this one a lot, and I haven't actually read it yet. I understand that like a lot of people bring this one up because there's a lot of references to um, a lot of stuff that's very very similar to Ice and Fire that people think is kind of taken from it, and George R. R. Martin did claim that it was one of his big influences. I mean, it's hard to. I haven't read this specifically, but I have read like Wheel of Time, and there's definitely when you read the language of Wheel of Time, and some of the elements there, you kind of go, oh yeah, like just writing style and various pieces here and there. I could see that was like lifted and borrowed and taken as like a basic fantasy to use as your backdrop. I assume the same kind of thing is going on with Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. Um, but I'm trying to like I think there have been some write ups where they try to compare a lot, but how much is from that and how much is just like general fantasy stuff? How much is stolen from Michael Moorcock, stuff like that? How much is stolen from Conan? How much is stolen from Lord of the Rings? Um, but I have not actually read it yet, though everybody tells me, you got to do it, got to read it. Um, Regarding your recent video mentioning Stannis, I think that the show actually did it better by having him only find out about the incest from Ned. I think I agree with that. So one of the things about like Ned sends off his raven about the incest to Stannis, and it doesn't matter because Stannis already knows in the books. So like Ned's actions do nothing. Like Ned's scheming and everything do nothing. There's no real remnant of it um, for anything he does. And so in the show, his letter does make a difference. Like Ned has, there is a consequence to Ned's scheming because they make a big deal out of it, like him changing the name. Like I'm going to change it from Joffrey to the heir and things like that, and you're like, oh, that's going to be something. It's not. Like Cersei doesn't even notice it. She's just like, what's this? Tears it up. Doesn't matter, right? Him sending off his letter doesn't matter. And maybe that was the point George was trying to make, but I do kind of like having something being, Ned's doing, having something affect the plot. So I would agree with that. Um, there are no pages, probably no pages. Um, Thoughts on the Watchmen character Rorschach. He's cool, but I hate how his mask is my parents fighting. Yes, the Rorschach. In case everyone knows Watchmen, the mask is always moving, and you see what you want to see in it. Um, the character is supposed to be a piece of crap, and Moore is writing him to be a piece of crap. He's supposed to be this extremist. It's weird that a lot of people read the story and think, "Oh, what an awesome guy." That's a kind of weird thing, right? Like, um, he's supposed to be this right wing vigilante extremist, and but a lot of people like read it and they're like, "No, that's the guy, man. He sticks to his ethics." The problem is, he's straight up like uh, what do they say, a deontologist. Like, he believes in like principles, but like the results don't matter to him. Like, he doesn't care if the world burns, and as long as he's doing what he thinks is right, which is pretty dangerous. But yeah, considering he's like, I think Rorschach isn't he? I mean, he's definitely a homophobe. I'm trying to remember like how racist he was. Um, yeah, he's a racist too. Yeah. Oh, that's right. He like reads the far right newspaper, and he defends the KKK in it. Um, yeah. Yeah, they're like the New Frontiersman is his favorite newspaper, and he loves it. And there's all sorts of like crazy racist and uh, uh, anti-gay stuff in it. So um, he's definitely supposed to be a villain, even though he's one of the heroes. There is a spiritual contract within the law. Running off like Jon or slinking away to Molestown does not break the spirit or social contract vow. Um, well, we have to ask ourselves, like, what is the social contract? Like, um, right? Like, what's the contract? Like, what is Gared getting out of this like contract? You know, like a contract is something in which two people are getting something from it. Okay, so um, for a regular murderer rapist who gets sent to the wall, I can kind of understand the contract. Okay, you have the mercy. We did not kill you. We gave you mercy, and in return, you serve us on the wall for your entire life. So what's the contract with Gared? Like, he joined as a child. So I like the premise I disagree with from the get go. Like, there's no good like contract here. Now, and if we're talking about the spirit of the contract, okay, like you're talking like a guy with PTSD who is scared to death, who can barely control his own bodily functions, and is just going on, without much like thought, like run, run, run. Um, how does that exception um not like fall within the spirit of things, while Jon, who basically was just like, I need to help my brother, like avenge the king, like kill the king. I need to help my brother kill the king of the realm. Like, how does that fall within the spirit? You know, like Jon running off to help his brother kill King Joffrey, and avenge his father's like beheading, which was legal. Like, how does that fit within it? I'm not even sure. Like, slinking away to Molestown, um, is within the spirit of the contract. Like, I understand that, like, slinking away the mole's town, you could say, it's not that big a deal. Okay. Maybe it's a minor thing, but I don't see how it's within the spirit, you know. It's like saying, like, I have we all have a contract with our employers. And that contract with the employers is that we work and they give us salary. But every once in a while, I take home some pens. I mean, that's minor, but I don't see how it's within the spirit of the contract. Like, me stealing from my employer is not in the spirit of the contract. It's minor, it's incidental, but it's not. There's, like, the spirit of the contract doesn't cover stealing from my employer. You know, the only reason that I'm allowed to steal pens is because it's incidental. Molestown is just incidental. It's not. There's nothing to do with the spirit. But I don't see how Jon's offense is within the spirit of the contract. Like, the contract of, you defend the realm, therefore we want you to defend the realm, therefore you're allowed to run off and help your brother kill the king. I don't understand it. Do you think Jon killing Janos was unjust? So in general, I don't agree with capital punishment. So right there, like, I'm going to say that no, I don't think Jon killing Janos Slynt was justified. Also, let's keep in mind that, like, Jon didn't know Janos Slynt was responsible for killing his father. So it's not like the sort of accidental comeuppance justice aspect of that can kind of be set aside. We're talking about, like, Jon's decision as somebody who needs to keep order in the Night's Watch. And Janos Slynt is claiming that he won't do work and may conspire against him. I don't think Jon's there were other recourses he could have done. Like, there were other punishments that he could have done for Janos Slynt. I don't think it helped. I don't think it's like made a safer watch. Like, in the end, Jon was still assassinated. So he failed in that respect. Janos Slynt himself, like, I don't know, like, there was other things you could have done with him. Like, he said he was going to go in the end. It's like, does somebody deserve to die for insubordination? And again, like, Jon is killing him for insubordination, and the future crime of conspiring him against him again if I didn't kill him now, which Janos hasn't done. So no, I don't think Jon was justified in killing Janos Slynt. I think it was an error, and an error that he pays for in the end. Like, when he killed Janos Slynt, he's sitting there thinking, "Oh, I've taught all of these people in the Night's Watch a lesson," and in fact, he made all of these people, like, fearful of him and thinking that he's dangerous, And so in the end, they killed him. He's one of the many, many reasons of killing Jon. But yeah. Isn't the calendar approved by George R. Martin? Yeah, George R. Martin approves these things, but I don't know how, what that means. Like, if you were George R. Martin, and you're super busy and they've got this calendar and somebody spent a lot of time on that art, are you going to be like, no, I don't like this. It's a fine picture. It could happen. Maybe he imagined it happened. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But, oh, no leaves seen. So, I mean, there's a lot of these like George approved the lands of ice and fire, and there, I can go over that map and there's so many things and I'm just like, that's it's a little weird, especially the map of Bravos, which is rather screwed up, but like, he approved it, he signed off. You kind of go, he's a busy guy. He's not going to painstakingly go over with a magnifying glass and be like, this needs to go back. Perfectionist, it's a calendar. It is ironic that Ned starts Game of Thrones wrongfully killing Gared and ends up wrongfully killed, except he admits guilt. What lesson do boys learn? I don't know if the boys learned any lesson from the execution. The weird, so it's like the like Bran 1 is a pretty screwed up scene. Okay. Now, and keep in mind when George first wrote it, it was Bran was whatever 7. Jon and Robb were originally supposed to be like 12 years old, and then they were bumped up to 15. But these are children, and they're to view this like execution to toughen them up, I guess. But then in the next scene, in the same chapter, they're sitting there going, "Oh, puppies," and because they can't break the little kids' hearts, they don't kill the puppies. They show mercy to some puppies, but they don't show any mercy to a human being. Okay, it's pretty screwed up, right? And it's supposed to be screwed up. And when George wrote it, Ned was not supposed to be that sympathetic. He made Ned more sympathetic later on and stuff like that. But so I don't know what the lesson is, other than you need to toughen these kids up by showing them death, like at a young age. That the world's harsh, and we need to make harsh boys. We need to make this is the same reasoning for the Mountain shoving the hound's face into the fire. Was to toughen him up. And that's what you get. You get Sandor in the end. You get the Hound. Do we think that Sandor's face should have been shoved in the fire? like what is this concept of like toughening boys up? Like, why do we do it? Because again, Sansa and Arya weren't sent. So like, if they think it's a good thing to see an execution, why aren't Sansa and Arya attending? But it's specific with boys. We need to get the boys like hardened to death, because they're gonna be fighting one day. They're gonna be doing manly things. Now in the end, like Ned admitting guilt, it's just him. It's him lying, but he's trying to do it to protect Sansa. He cares about, and that's the only reason he does what he does. He dies and gets executed and everything to protect Sansa. So in the sense, like, Ned's actions at the end are pretty exemplary, because he's trying to save Sansa's life. And it works. So, but the action, I would still say, I'd say the execution of Ned is also unjust, for a number of reasons. But he shouldn't have been killed. But what lesson do boys learn from watching execution? I don't know. We know what Ned's opinion is, which somewhat relates to George, because I've seen George in interviews saying that that his books are super violent, and people like criticize him for having a super violent book and super explicit book, and he's like, I want to be honest. I don't want to hide things. History was harsh and the world is harsh. So I don't want to hide that. And so I want my book to be honest and true. And there's a little bits of that in Ned's speech about man should like hear last words and do it himself. Like he should expose himself to this kind of stuff. There's some sort of like truth to it. I'm not sure, like once you examine it too closely, if there's any good logic to it, but it relates to George's views on the world. So Gared would just be in mutiny, even though Royce was right about the wildlings. But not just getting executed for deserting for weeks, months before. Oh, if Gared killed Royce, is this idea? If Gared killed Royce, and took off, um, he might be executed. I think he wasn't thinking straight, which is why he like goes. The only explanation I have for like why he was so close to Winterfell is that he just wasn't thinking straight, because he was so scared. Had Gared killed Waymar Royce and taken off earlier, he might have been able to get away. Like he wouldn't have run into the wildling. He wouldn't have run into the others, and he wouldn't have been scared to death, and he would have been thinking more clearly. So Gared might have been able to do better than he did. Like Gared was not thinking straight, so he's caught. But had he killed Royce, he might have been, craftier about the whole thing, and gotten away. If you're asking that. I think it's 90% confirmed that's a consensual relationship. I mean, what's consensual? I mean, she's too young to really consent, right? I mean, at the Harrenhal tourneys in 81, right? Harrenhal tourneys at 281. So Lyanna's age, she was born in 266 or 267, so she's 14. She's either 13 or 14 years 14 or 15 years old is the idea, and Rhaegar is she's 14 or 15, and Rhaegar is he was born in 59, so he is doing my math, he's 22. Sorry, he's 22 and she's 14 or 15 years old. Like, come on, guys. Jon and Arya are the hottest romance. Yeah, this is the. Weirdly, there's so much like sibling attraction in the story, which is just like goes against basic biology. Like, it's not that sibling marriages didn't happen, but they tended to happen because they were forced, like royalty was forced to in Egyptian times. And it was actually, I think with the Egyptians, it was mainly like half brothers and half sisters. But there's so much like, I mean, I guess in this situation, they think they're half brother and half sister, but like, there's just so much weird sibling attraction in the story. Just odd. Um, Best one time this crackhead story. Oh, I don't know if I really know many crackheads. I'm trying to remember if I've ever really like had a good crackhead story. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. Um, Let me think here. Hmm. I just don't know that many crackheads. You know, and most of them really aren't that. Even if I'm going with like homeless guy that I assume is a crackhead, like it's not very good stories. Like, I mean, once I remember once I was like with some friends on in the south side of Chicago, and like this homeless guy was like, "Hey, you shouldn't be in this area, man. Like, dude, like, go a couple streets that way, man." Like, I remember like a homeless guy saying that to me once. He might have been a crackhead. It was like good advice. You know, it's like I was a couple streets too far north. You know, I don't know. I don't really have any very good like that was a crazy crackhead story. I'm sorry. Um, I see lovely blossoms just around a neighbor. I see lovely blossoms just around the neighborhood. Yes, yes. Good old blossoms everywhere. Look, if you haven't been to DC or Japan and seen cherry blossoms in the springtime, it's kind of funny because I remember even when I was living in Japan, I was there for a summer, and I remember like even like, and I was hanging out with these like I mean, they all thought they were hard. You know, they were like Japanese rappers and stuff, and they're trying to be as thuggish as possible. But they'd always be like, "Oh, you came in the summer. You should you should come to Japan in the springtime. The cherry blossoms are really beautiful." You know, like every single one was like the toughest guy and the toughest guy. Like would just admit like cherry blossoms, man. You gotta come. Oh man, Japan's beautiful in the springtime. Same with DC. I mean, it's hard to say that like DC isn't beautiful right now, man. Cherry blossoms. Oh, thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you. Um, oh, the Cersei Roberts scene. The Cersei Roberts scene was pretty good. I like the Cersei Roberts scene in season one of Game of Thrones. Um, there's a few little things, you know, like I think the way they like D&D transition the Tyrion deducing who the mole was a really great scene. How they did that. Um, Pick one song. You never have to hear it again. It doesn't cease to exist. People who really enjoy it still get to you, but you'll never hear it again. Oh God. Um, like a song that I really bugs me. There's a lot of songs that are overplayed, but at the same time, like if I never heard it again, like that'd be sad. Like I just want to hear it less. Like it's like I really want to hear like Don't Stop Believing less or Living on a Prayer less. They're great songs, but I want to hear them less frequently, please. But I don't know if a song that I never want to hear again. I mean, probably something by Dave Matthews or something. Like I'm just trying to think like something that just really like like just grinds in my ear, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what it is. I'm just like, oh, that just hurts. I don't get it. I don't get it. But it's probably something like Dave Matthews or something. Please keep doing the chapter breakdown. It's great. Oh yeah. I'm going through. They're pretty fun. It's interesting going back again at this point because there's a lot of stuff that, like, even after reading the latest G stuff on the early drafts of A Game of Thrones, it's fun to go through again. The recently I was reading the other versions of, like, the A Feast for Crows prologue, and even that, you're just like, huh, like George wanted this, George had this idea, like in the other versions of the A Feast for Crows prologue, like Lazy Leo like sexually abuses and murders Rosie, and you're like, oh, like, look, Lazy Leo was a douche, but being a douche and, like, murdering someone are, like, two different things, And I was like, I never considered Lazy Leo like that off the wall bonkers. Like, but George was clearly thinking about it. Like, oh yeah, he's just another Joffrey or whatever. So it's funny, like, going back and, like, re-examining everything on what George was thinking from the beginning when he didn't really have a plan, and what he put in there and stuff like that. Why isn't Preston in HD? Also, thoughts on lyrics to Dancing Bear by Mama and the Papas. Am I not in HD? I have to. I guess, I mean, the quality only goes to 720p on my stream. I don't know. Sometimes I'll have to look into that, maybe. But whatever. Thoughts on Dancing Bear by the Mamas and the Papas. I have to think about that one. Mamas and the Papas was, like, my favorite, my parents', like, favorite group. I have to. This is one of those songs that I probably know, but if I heard it, but I don't want to like bring it up because I'll get copyright struck. But what if I do this for a second? Let me see here. Very, very hippie. It's very George R. Martin. All right. It's like, this is like, so Mamas and the Papas, they kind of have two different types of music that they played. They either did their, like, full, like, harmony stuff, like all the leaves are brown, da-na-na, and have, like, their wall of sound, or they had very Peter, Paul and Mary, like, very basic, like, folky stuff. So Dancing Bear seemed more just basic folky stuff, which is too bad because I like the other. I like it when they do all their harmonies. But I wouldn't want to be a chimney sweep. I'll have to listen to this one and put more time into it. I wish I had some good opinions about it right now. Just clicked on and expected Ned chat. And I first hear he reads a far right newspaper and defends the KKK. That's Ned. It's funny that you mentioned the Voss Rowling fight last week, and then she did the same thing this week and harassed a random person on Twitter and said trans people were killed in the Holocaust. Oh God. and said trans people weren't killed in the Holocaust. Yeah, I mean, Rowling, J.K. Rowling has some, like, she is really obsessed. She's really obsessed with trans people. It's in a bad way. I don't. She's really just like ruining her entire legacy. She just needs to really just stop. Like, stop now. Um, it's really, oh, but yeah, like Vosh's way to handle her is just kind of weird. But I don't know, because his whole way is like send her like sexist stuff, and it's just like how that's just giving her ammo. It's just making her like look better. um Mormont was very clear about why he doesn't kill every fool that sneaks off to Molestown. Also, he's clear why he's not killing Snow for desertion. Yeah, I mean, Mormont knows that, like, if he killed every, well, if he had such a really strict, if he had these strict rules, like, he'd have, like, the people wouldn't be able to function, right? He would have no one in the Night's Watch. There would be really poor morale, things like this. Mormont is, I mean, I think the Great Ranging was a really bad idea, but for the most part, he's able to handle the Watch, and he's proven to be able to handle the Watch for years and years and years, and is well respected. Jon, Jon's a child, and if the Watch falls apart within a few months of him running things. But the thing is, say we're talking in the world of, like, had Mormont run into, had he been pulled, like, had Mormont dealt with Gared, like, what would have happened? This is a man that Mormont's known for years. He would have at least sat down and talked to him and figured things out. There's also this question of, like, if Gared, and granted, Gared travels for a month and is still hysterical, which is a little unrealistic, but, like, you do wonder, if you, like, sat down and talked to him and had him finally calm down, would Gared be willing to go back to the Wall or something like that? We don't know. It's but he's never given that option. He's caught, and then they try to talk to him for 2 seconds. They're like, "Up, doesn't work, behead." So. As you read Game of Thrones, look at the Sansa chapter where Arya is searching for Rhaegar's rubies closely. First hint that Rhaegar is alive. It's dumb but true. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's impossible. When George claims that, that when he wrote the first dozen or so chapters, and keep in mind the first dozen or so chapters are, I mean, Sansa's chapter 15, but nonetheless, it's early. He mentions House Derry in the first Daenerys chapter, so he kind of knows about this. But according to George, he claims that when he first wrote the first, like, whatever, dozen or so chapters, he didn't really know what he was writing. And because this is back in 91, 92. And so when he took the pause to write Doorways, he came back and he had given this to an editor, and they liked it and stuff. And then he realized, I better do some world building. And that's when he, like, sat down with a map and, like, tried to figure things out and write some backstory. And so, like, at this point of the story, did he, was he leaving all avenues open? I don't know. We'll look, but was he leaving all avenues open for characters to be alive or whatever? Because clearly, there's elements about, like, Jaime being the big bad, and Arya and Jon's romance, and Cersei being the original killer of Jon Arryn, and Sir Hugh probably being Cersei's instrument for killing Jon Arryn, and all sorts of stuff. But we'll get there fairly soon. Um, was John beheading Janos wrong? Yeah, I mean, I did answer this, but I would say yes. I'd say that there was probably other ways of going about dealing with Janos Slynt than executing him. Um, he I'm not saying Janos Slynt wasn't a freaking dumbass. Of course he was, but um, do you execute somebody for insubordination? I mean, you think of some of the things they did with Jon Snow. They put him in the ice cells for a few days. Um, there was all sorts of punishments that you can give, but um, I think execution was probably a bit much. Um, when Ned tells Robert that he never saw the iron underneath Lyanna's soft exterior, what is he talking about in her smoking? What he is really talking about is her smoking hot bod, lol. N plus L equals J confirmed. Just kidding, lol. Excited for more drafts. Yeah, this is the Stark Cest, um, theory. This idea that, like, okay, Ned's super sleuth, like coming to the conclusion that Jaime and Cersei were banging is ridiculous. Like, his super sleuthing, like, can say that, okay, maybe Robert isn't the father, but jumping to Cersei is banging her brother is pretty outrageous. Considering that, like, Lancelo's at court, there's lots of other blonde people around. Like, why not assume it's Preston Greenfield or something? I don't know Preston Greenfield's, like, hair color, but there has to be somebody without, somebody in the Kingsguard, Aerys Oakheart. I don't know, Maren Trant, somebody else that's around her, or at least have a whole slew of suspects. Well, it's not Robert. Who could it be? But he jumps to incest, which is a ridiculous notion. So not something a normal person would do. And so the idea is that if he lived in an environment where incest happened, whether between Brandon and Lyanna, or him and Lyanna, or Benjen and Lyanna, or whatever, then his mind was already in the incest mode, and therefore, like Starkcest happens or whatever. But Ned seems to have a problem with Brandon in some respects, but still builds a statue to him. So I don't know. But maybe, who knows what was on George's mind. Biden's campaign advisor, what's your advice? I mean, I think he needs to go out and go hard and promote that the economy is very good, that inflation's down, that Trump's a maniac, that that democracy is at stake. I think most of the things that Biden is doing, he needs to do. The he can't not be an old guy. And a lot of the Trump fans, like, they'll never like him, and the right wing media is always going to be there on no matter what he does. So I think, I mean, I don't know if I can think of anything that Biden is doing or that he isn't doing that he should do more of. I think that so far he's playing it pretty well. You know, I mean, people can bring up like things you disagree with, like okay, maybe I disagree with his Israel policy, but I don't know if necessarily his Israel policy, if he changed that, if that gets him more votes. Because again, Americans really don't care about foreign policy. They really don't care about foreign policy. So the things they care about are gas prices and inflation and the economy and abortion. They do care about immigration. So he's doing the plays that probably will get him elected again. I don't think I know better than the advisors he has. Just rewatched the prepping for winter videos. Elaine chapters renewed my headcanon that she will marry Gendry, a Baratheon bastard. TYVM for the stream. Oh, thank you very much for the stream. I'm trying to think of how she would run into Gendry. Because Gendry, in order for Gendry to marry him, right? He would have to be legitimized. And then the idea, the idea that Elaine would marry him because she's a bastard. The thing is, she's still Littlefinger's bastard. So she's still like good enough for like a highborn person on the low end, kind of like Joy Hill, Uncle Gary's a bastard. No one in the fandom calls him Uncle Gary, but like that's what he's actually called in A Storm of Swords, Uncle Gary. And then in A Dance with Dragons, all of a sudden it's only Garyon. But like Tyrion calls him Uncle Gary. But I think the fandom needs to bring Uncle Gary back as like a thing. Because anyway, Uncle Gary's kid. Uncle Gary's kid, Joy Hill or something, where it's like you're a bastard, but you're still high enough to have a good marriage. So she'd be above Gendry unless he's legitimized. But if he's legitimized, he could probably do better than he like hops over Elaine, right? It's like Gendry's marriage status level will be here. Elaine's here. A legitimized Gendry is like hopping up here. So now, like, she's not good enough for him because he's Lord of... Well, I mean... Well, Stannis is still alive, right? So he's Lord of Storm's End. So Gendry would be... Well, Shireen would be heir? Would Gendry come ahead? Or does Gendry all of a sudden come before Stannis if he's legitimized? It'd be an argument. Maybe because he has an unsure situation. I'm just trying to think also like who legitimizes him. You get like a King Sweet Robin or King John. Like who's legitimizing Gendry in the end? I'd have to hear the entire like plot line and how that would happen. But they have set up already the Gendry Arya romance. So what you gonna do with that? Oh. George R. Martin even said, like, when a fan asked, like, is Gendry and Arya gonna meet up again? He said yes, that he has a plan for them. I was like, oh, okay. Would Gared be crafty growing up at the Wall? He'd be So I'll grant that Gared. So Will was known as the Silent One because he was the poacher. Well, Gared was not. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe Gared wouldn't be too crafty. He was growing up at the Wall, but he would at least know how to survive in the wilderness on his own. for days, weeks at a time. So he could at least stay off the King's Road, march through the wilderness, avoid things. Because when you really think about it, let's bring up a map of the North. Okay, so freaking Gared. So Gared is, he's off in the haunted forest, and then he like decides to come down, and he makes it all the way to Winterfell. He just passes right by Winterfell, which is just, it's a boneheaded move, man. Like, okay, you've made it that far. You go, let's see, you ride through the mountains. You got the Wolfswood right there. Okay, go wide, like go right by Winterfell and the Wolfswood, and then go around Winterfell. And if you want to get back to the King's Road, you can, but just go wide, hide in the Wolfswood, man. Like you're like, that's just boneheaded, man. He's boneheaded that he's picked up there, like some holdfast, like living in some holdfast or what. Dude, you're a Night's Watch Ranger. Like you know how to hunt, you know how to live off the land. Like, come on. You've been ranging, you've been a ranger for 40 freaking years, man. Like, come on. You make it all like just go wide. Stay away from Winterfell. Then you can cut down, and then get past, and then head down the neck and whatever. And then by then, also change your clothes, dude. Change your clothes. Get rid of your, kill a deer and tan him or whatever they do, and get the leather, and just be riding in leathers, not your black cloaks from the Night's Watch. I mean, come on, do something, man. It's just boneheaded. He's still wearing the black and everything. It's like being in a like it's been a month. Okay, it's like still walking around in your prison uniform, prison jumpsuit. Boneheaded guy. I guess growing up at the wall did not make him too bright. Portugal has been a horrible country. Not surprised. Portugal is a wonderful place, man. Wonderful place. Oh, I'm such a fan of Portugal. I would totally live in Portugal, by the way. I would totally live in Portugal. I mean, Carmine says this because he was in the Portuguese area of New Jersey, of Newark, and so he knew a lot of Portuguese people there. But man, proper Portugal is wonderful. I'm not going to say Newark, New Jersey is wonderful. Genetics in Westeros and how they work are super inconsistent. Thousands of years of Starks have always looked like Starks until one day Ned has Tully-looking children. What the fuck? Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. We don't actually know what the Starks looked like. Now, I admit that like the Baratheons looking the same and the Lannisters looking the same for so long because we have the genetics book. Like, that's ridiculous. That's super ridiculous. So I'll grant you the point, because the Baratheons and the Lannisters like end up looking the same for that long. It's really stupid. However, yeah, thousands of years, the Starks. Now, I will say that you can claim that like the direwolf connection, though, you could say it doesn't actually even come from the Starks. Like, one could argue that it comes from the Flints, and like, it's because the Starks married into the Flints that they ended up getting the ability to bond with direwolves. And that Like anything before that, like wasn't even a Stark thing. It was a Flint thing. So in that sense, like, they pulled in the genetics, but like, yeah, people looking the same after many, many generations and not being mixed up and stuff like that. I mean, you need like that can be true of like big populations, like Dutch people being tall or Swedes being blonde or Irish being redheaded. Like, yeah, but even in those populations, there's slews of people that don't look like that. It's just you kind of have like a whole bunch of different people like, that look a certain way. But yes, it's ridiculous that one family would look the same after thousands of years. I mean, how much incest is going on? Unless, or just everyone in the North looks that way. Like everyone in the storm, it turns out everyone in the Stormlands actually looks like a Baratheon. But the problem is that we've met everybody else from the Stormlands and they don't look that way. So maybe if everybody in the North looks like the Starks, they're just intermarrying people that look the same. But yes, it's pretty dumb. Um, I've never heard Nickelback. Brazil contributes a lot to butt culture. This is the Catholic thing, man. It's the the Garfunkel and Oates song. That's the whole thing. The loophole, the Catholic loophole. Where do you think Jaime's story is heading? I feel like he's having his own trial of the seven. It fits thematically and also mirrors Cersei's trial. Um, so I don't know about a trial for the trial of the seven. Like, so fans get really, because there was a trial of the seven in the Hedge Knight. A lot of fans, and it was a big, exciting, like, you know, wondrous clusterfuck that everybody's like, oh man, we need like there needs to be like uh, a trial of the seven, like in the regular series, like that needs to happen. And then so people are like, oh, Cersei's trial should be a trial of the seven because then that would be epic. And then who would be there? And you're like, oh, like I don't know if they're gonna do that, but that's I mean that's something. If because keep in mind that like the Hedge Knight's trial of seven, like it's a big deal and it's exciting. It takes many many pages. Like maybe George could do that, but I'm trying to think like what seven people would want to fight for Cersei and what seven people would want to fight for the faith and all these sorts of things. Now, that said, when you talk about like Jaime having a trial and Cersei having a trial, well, yeah, um, at parallel times. Well, yeah, this is like this. So Jaime looks like he is getting kidnapped um, by the Brotherhood Without Banners, and um, and the last time somebody was kind of kidnapped by the Brotherhood Without Banners, the Hound, he had a trial by combat. Cersei has a trial coming up. So, it's very likely that Jaime and Cersei could have near simultaneous, if not simultaneous, parallel trials happening. Completely agree with this. If we're knowing now some people are like, oh well, would Brienne really like bring in Jaime for that? We got to remember that like prior to, in an earlier draft, it wasn't even Brienne like trying to get Jaime to come with her. It was the sex worker who was working for the Brotherhood Without Banners. So like it seems like whoever's bringing him, he's gonna be brought before Lady Stoneheart to have maybe a trial by combat the same way the Hound did. Um, that's quite all quite possible, and Cersei's having a trial at the same time. And somebody would be perhaps fighting in that trial at that time too. So it's those two things could be happening. Now, with regards to like Jaime, you know, I think that Jaime's story is more importantly Brienne's story right now. Like she's the one having the moral change in the situation. Like she's the one who needs to have that Ares moment to realize that like morality and what's right is about more than just code. And she's kind of already decided that because she's only bringing in Jaime because she's trying to save Podrick and Hyle Hunt. Like she's not, you know, she was ready to die, but then she sees Podrick and Hyle Hunt getting killed, getting murdered, and she lies and in order to save them. And so she you know, she's already kind of decided that no, she's beyond codes and following, whether it be her knightly code of always telling the truth or her code to follow Cailin. Both of them are not going to be. She's in it to protect people. You know, she's in it to protect, you know, Podrick and Hyle Hunt, and she'll probably end up protecting Jaime too. So the story is more about like Brienne's journey and what she decides to do, which is probably stab Lady Stoneheart in the back, you know, like the same way that or open her throat or whatever, you know, however Jaime killed Ares, she'd probably maybe kill her in the same way. But it's a very important question. I think you are bringing up a very important question. That yes, you can kind of figure out what Jaime and Brienne's story is, but Cersei's story is happening at the same time, and what parallel moral message is happening there? That's a harder question actually, because if you're kind of saying, okay, Brienne, it's all about existentialism and you know, doing what's, you know, protecting people, being more important than following code or whatever, or honor, which is what, you know, which was Ned. And, you know, remember Ned gets rid of his honor to protect Sansa, and we all consider that a good thing, you know. So Brienne's getting rid of her honor in order to protect people, just like Jaime gets rid of his honor to protect people, protecting the city. What's happening with Cersei? Like, I guess it's a lot of characters, like maybe the opposite, a lot of characters being honorable for the sake of honorable, and it leading to like just disgusting, tragic results. I was thinking that like the one of the saddest things that could happen would be that Lancel would be the one that decided he was going to fight for the Seven, and Jaime has to see her cousin getting killed, you know. And it's like it's kind of like such a sad thought that I'm like, oh, that, you know, that makes a lot of sense. It feels like George, that Lancel is the one that's going to be dying in the trial. You know, if against Lance will be stupid enough to go against the Mountain and really believe that like the gods will protect him. You know, yeah. So I guess that would be the parallel structure, like the super honorable guy who really believes in like religion and honor and code, and that in a trial by combat, the gods would protect him, and he just gets his head bashed in by Robert Strong. I think that's probably like what we're looking at. How gay is the Night's Watch, though? I mean, we got Satin. We got Satin. Who else we got? I mean, Satin and, you know, we don't know if Satin and Dolores Ed are having a relationship off screen. We don't know. We have no idea what's going on. Does Ned even know the others exist? Gared saw one with his own eyes, and Ned didn't indicate he interrogated him for any info. Jeor could have used that. Oh yeah, absolutely. In a practical sense, like Ned drops the ball. Ned does not know the others exist. He he quite hastily executes Gared, and he should have like sat him down, interviewed him, figured everything out, because that was really important information that he had that the others had returned. Um, it was Ned really dropped the ball. Like he just like, I think Carmine brought up with me. He's like, but yeah, but would it have made a difference? Like, say, like Ned like believes it and sounds the alarm, and he's like, oh my god, we need to alert the realm that the others are back. I suppose Robert would trust Ned and would send as many men as he could. Um, I mean, probably one of the best situations, right? That like the king respects Ned and is like, I need to send like 10,000 people to the wall or whatever and reinforce all of the right? I mean, but Ned has to believe, so Ned has to believe the guy, and then Robert would have to trust Ned, which could have been a very, very, man, the what ifs there. The what ifs. Melisandre must be Rhaegar. She's been gaslighting Stannis. I just wonder how the glamours work. I mean, if you could you glamour um could you glamour the a vagina on Melisandre for the sex, you know, that they've been having? That you're saying that like Stannis has been having sex with Rhaegar the entire time? That would be impressive. That would be impressive. I mean, it's kind of in George's personality to do something like that. Man, that'd be something. Oh man, I mean, only George could pull that off. Thoughts on Rickard Stark's execution compared to Garrett's? Seems interesting that Garrett's unjust execution is so clean while Rickard's is so messy. I mean, obviously, um, like Rickard Karstark is being tortured, and torture is wrong, and Aerys is evil for torturing Rickard Karstark. Oh, I'm sorry. Ah, fuck. I'm sorry. Not Rickard Karstark. That was Rickard. I misunderstood. Going back, that would be Rickard Stark. Um, Rickard Karstark. Rob's execution of Karstark. Yes. Um, oh, in that Rickard's is so messy and Garrett's is so clean. Um, yeah, I mean, Garrett, it's just a situation of power in that sense. Like Richard Karstark, like has relatives, and he has um, an army and all of these sorts of people that follow him and want vengeance and stuff like that. Garrett, he's got some friends at Castle Black, you know, but that's about it. Like who, and they don't really have all the information, um, and plus it's like somebody down at Winterfell. Like they can't exactly leave the wall to go avenge Garrett by killing Ned. You know, like they could had Mormont done it. Maybe some people would be angry at Mormont, just like when Janos Slynt was executed. Like people came after Jon Snow. So like it's just that the person that did it was far away, and the people in the watch that might have been Garrett's friends, can't get to Ned Stark, and then Ned's gone and gets killed anyway. So, they're like, even if they wanted to get Ned back for killing Garrett, like he's already dead at that point. But um, but Garrett's execution is probably, in the grand scheme, much messier than Rickard's, because Garrett, had they listened to Garrett and found out about the others, and Ned alerted Robert, it would have been a much better in the whole fight against the others kind of idea. Um, Oh, Cat is given instructions by Ned to notify his lords, Tallhart, Glover, Manderly, and for them to keep an eye on Theon. Why wasn't any of this done? I'm not sure if I've heard discussion of this before, um, and there's the question of like, is it not done? Okay, this is what he's talking about. Because this discussion's come up a few times, but also keep in mind that like, um, you know, George does make mistakes. There's a few things that he's brought up that oh, that's the wrong window. Okay, so this is what he's talking about. He's like back in at Ned 4. He says to Cat, once you're home, send word to Helman Tallhart and Galbert Glover under my seal. They are to raise 100 bowmen each to fortify Moat Cailin. 200 determined archers can hold the neck against any army. Instruct Lord Manderly that he is to strengthen and repair all his defenses at White Harbor and see that they are well manned. And from this day on, I want a careful watch kept over Theon Greyjoy. If there is war, we shall have sore need of his father's fleet. Now, she does tell Robb to keep an eye on Theon Greyjoy. So, that's that is done. So she does that part. I won't blame her for that. But you're right that like, was Moat Cailin fortified? Because it says that 200 can hold against an army, and it didn't happen. Now, I think the argument people gave was well, this is when you're home, send word to Helman Tallhart and Galbert Glover, and she never makes it home again, right? Because after this, she kidnaps Tyrion, goes to the Vale, then goes from the Vale to meet Robb at Moat Cailin. But I'm trying to remember, like, obviously she could, and at that point, but the thing is, I think Tallhart is with them. Like, why didn't they leave some people behind at Moat Cailin to help defend it? Like, she's there. She could have told Robb, like, hey, we're at Moat Cailin. Like have them leave some bowmen behind. We just need 200 freaking bowmen to hold the neck or something. Or I mean, it could be that the 200 were left behind, and Ned was wrong, and Victarion Greyjoy was just really awesome and was able to take Moat Cailin anyway. So I mean, the most probable thing is just George forgot. He wrote the line and then he forgot about it. But you can make some arguments after that Cat forgot maybe. She did tell Robb, and Robb was like, no one's got, or she did tell Robb, and Robb was so confident that there was no threat that he didn't want to leave the archers behind. Trying to remember where Robb is when they hear of Ned's death, if they're well past the neck, because then Robb is like defying his father at that point. But yeah, I don't know. Fans argue about this one. I figure your finding new music days are past, but I would love to hear your opinion on To Pimp a Butterfly, one of the best albums of the 2010s. Tons of funkadelic influence in leftist politics. Yeah, it's weird, right? With music, how you just kind of I mean, some people still search out for new music, but it was very different when you had. I think it was more time. Well, one more time. Your friends are into music. You spend a lot more time in your car, like exploring music. I don't have much time like doing commute anymore. I go into the office once a week, um, and things like that. So To Pimp a Butterfly, but it becomes. I mean, I've also heard just like there is something biological that people just don't. Um, Kendrick Lamar, that people don't search out new music as much as they get older, but they for some reason like still receive like there's something like their ears change and they don't get the pleasure of like new music, but they still get the pleasure of nostalgia or something crazy like that. Um oh will you be covering the Walking Dead Rick and Michonne, the Rick and Michonne series? I'm looking forward to your next Winds of Winter chapter and a Game of Thrones reread. Um, I hadn't planned on the Rick and Michonne series. I just can't believe like they're still doing The Walking Dead. Um, and the Rick actor like left and tried to find more work and couldn't, so he's got to go back to The Walking Dead. I just can't believe there's just so much Walking Dead. I can't believe there's so much Law and Order. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like so much of it. But I look, when it comes to series, what I will be covering is this week, the 21st, it comes out. I will be binging the Three Body Problem, and I'll be talking about that with Amber. So be on the lookout for that. With regards to the fanfic, I just passed Tyrion 3 to the editors for help on that. So that's coming along. But I really thought it was like an impossible task to fit everything in the time in the space provided. But I think it's gonna work out, pacing wise. And the Game of Thrones rereads, yeah. Um, probably this week I'll post. I mean, if you're on Patreon, there's Cailin and Danny. Cailin 1 and Danny 1 are up, but I'll probably end up posting Cailin 1 on my main channel this week sometime. So all that's happening. Thoughts on the Ashford theory? That's one of the things that I actually believed for a while, but once you kind of uh, spend some time actually examining it, it doesn't really make sense, because Sansa was betrothed to Sweet Robin, and an Aaron is not one of the people at the Ashford tourney, so it doesn't really make sense, all of her betrothals. Like I understand that, like, okay, you get Lannister, you get Tyrell, you get Hardying, but like where's the Aaron? Like it doesn't actually fit. So um oh. If two wargs tried to seize each other simultaneously, would they just switch places? I'm trying to think of the logistics of this. Now keep in mind that George R. R. Martin um, wrote a number of books about body swapping. Um, it's one of the main plots of Wild Cards for a while. There's a group of villains called the Jumpers, who jump around in people's bodies, which leads to Dr. Tachyon getting raped by his grandson. It's really fucked up because he's body swapped into a girl's body, and then his grandson ends up raping him. But yes, the body swapping thing is something George R. R. Martin's done before. But I'm trying to think of the actual like logistics of like warging and what happens in there, because like, okay, so when you warg, you're telepathically sending your consciousness to another body, but your old body, it's still connected unless you die. And then if you die, your disembodied conscious can live second life. But what if two bodies are sending their consciousness into each other? Would you swap? I don't think there's any reason to believe you'd swap, because I think the only thing that breaks the bond from one body to another in Ice and Fire is death. That you'd have to actually like sever the death to cause it go over. So both consciousnesses would be tethered to their bodies, and then they'd be crossing over. Oh, but while they're walking around, would they be effectively body swapped? I guess. I mean, every time we see, because Varamir can consciously be in like multiple bodies at once. I wonder if they'd be like hive minded, like both of them being in both bodies at once. I would tend to think blended consciousness, hive minding, would happen, because when you do warg, there like Bran is melding his consciousness with Summer. It's weird with Hodor, where he actually like pushes Hodor's personality down rather than blending his consciousness with Hodor's. Yeah, so I want to say that it would be some sort of like blending of consciousness, because you'd think they'd seize each other's bodies, but would the bodies be conscious? Would they be able to like lift them up? It's an interesting thought, but it seems like it'd just be like a blending, like they'd both be blended into one being. And then they'd form their it would be one of those hive minds like in House of the Undying, right? Maybe the House of the Undying is just nothing but a bunch of wargs who are warging each other. They're all warging each other at once. They're all skin changing each other at once. Like that's all that it is. That's my headcanon. I think that's my headcanon now. The House of the Undying is just a bunch of people. They took Shade of the Evening. They were all able to then like, because of the drugs, skin change. They've all skin changed each other's bodies simultaneously in one big massive hive mind, and that's all that's going on. Cersei, Master of Ships, replaces Stannis. Sansa 5? What? I'm trying to think. Hold on a second. Okay, so we're talking about Sansa 5, Game of Thrones? I imagine. Let me trying to figure out. Cersei, Master of Ships, replaces Stannis. Stannis of 5. Not sure what exactly this is about. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Because Master, huh? Thoughts on P.T. Anderson and Magnolia? Magnolia is the one with the frogs, right? Yeah, it's very funny. Like, I've seen kind of the second half of Magnolia. I haven't seen the first one, but the my sister saw Magnolia and she just hated it. She hated it. She hated the whole fucking frogs thing. She hated it. And her boyfriend at the time, who was been her husband for many years, my brother-in-law, he loved it. It was like Magnolia was like his favorite movie. And she was like, it was like the serious like thing where she's just like, is there something fundamentally wrong? Like how can this person love Magnolia? Like she was really just like, there must be something like, are we compatible? Because like, how can a person that she like loves and respects like the movie Magnolia? She was like that strong about it. You know, where they all just start singing and frogs like come from the sky. And I understand there's like biblical reference to this, and stuff like this, but I never had any sort of strong feeling about it. But it was just, I thought it was very funny though that she had such a violently negative reaction to the movie. And there's a few movies I have very violent negative reactions to, that some people like, where I'm just like, how? Like, like I have a feeling like I really dislike the movie Being John Malkovich, and I'm just like, it's very rare that I come across somebody who like loves that movie, but there's certain things where you're just like, oh, that movie, oh, that rubs the wrong way, and then for somebody else to love it, you're like, how she was like so upset about it. But I don't really have much to say about it. It's been a long time since I saw it. I don't think I really have a strong opinion one way or the other. Yes, Ned's words couldn't reach Gared. Yes, meaning they needed to sit him down, put him in a cell for a while, have him relax, have him chill, because there's no reason to like jump to conclusions, be like, well, I tried, guys, I tried. Give him a sandwich, have him calm down. All the time my my kids will have meltdowns, and very stupidly you try to like reason with these kids. They're upset over something stupid, like he has a drawing tablet, right? And you press a button and the tablet clears away, and he comes down and the tablet's been cleared because my toddler like pressed the button or something, or maybe he pressed it and he forgot, and he's just like, Daddy, I hate it when people clear the tablet, I don't want that. At first you're like, it's okay, Sky. Like, let's sit down and draw another picture. It'll be great. It'll be fine. But I don't want it. No. No, it's okay, Sky. It's okay. And then at this path, you can be like, okay, I can try screaming at him. I can try reasoning with him more, or I can realize that he needs a freaking snack and his blood sugar is low and that he's having a meltdown because he needs a snack. And then you're like, oh, right. And then you feed him a snack and all of a sudden he's okay. Um, Get Garrett, man. Like, I tried reasoning him with him. Oh, I guess we better behead him. Like, fuck, like just fucking sit him down, give him a meal, put him in a cell for a while, give him a bowl, give him a sandwich. Come on, man. Just give him a sandwich. It's true. Garrett's lawyer should have appealed. Oh man. Is there some deeper meaning to Essos being far richer than Westeros? Xaro seems about as wealthy as all the High Lords combined. I mean, you make a very, very valid point. I mean, it's kind of just ridiculous because you're talking like when you talk about like Bravos, like or Xaro, Zoandaxis, yeah, that like how many he says he has hundreds of ships, so like I want to make sure I get the number down, because this is a rather important thing. He says, how many ships do you own, Xaro? 83, if one does not count my pleasure barge. And then how many do each of these people have? He's like 12 or 1,300 for the Guild of Spicers, and no more than 800 for the Brotherhood of the Tourmaline Brotherhood. Like just the Guild of Spicers has 1,300 ships. Okay, and we kind of know that the Crown has, like, we take the red wine fleet and then any kind of extra fleets, like maybe you can like scrounge together, get them up to like 500 total. Um, maybe if you can't, maybe they're thinking like we can't attack the Iron Throne because of the Ironborn or something. But the Ironborn are like the whole deterrent for invasion. But the Ironborn are on the other side of the continent. You'd think that these Bravosi that have hundreds of ships, thousands of ships, the Lyseni, the Tyrashi, all these people would have the naval power to just completely dominate Westeros. Absolutely. Especially considering that they were like part of like the War of the Nine Kings, or like part of they like were part of the Dance of the Dragons. And they're only sending, like a few dozen ships. Like you have enough naval power to just completely destroy the entire continent and take it over, but no one ever does. It's very clear the Carthene could just take Westeros. Like they could just take it over if they wanted. Like, why don't they do it? They made them way too rich. Like any individual, like any of these individuals, like could buy an unsullied army and just go invade Westeros with their thousands of ships at any time, and they don't do it. Yeah, it's definitely a problem. So is there any deeper meaning to it? No. I think if anything, Essos is just kind of representing Southern Europe or the Mediterranean in general. I mean, Slaver's Bay seems to be an Egypt kind of stand-in. We get to like Ashai and Karth, you get elements of is this Singapore or is this East Asia or something? You get these elements of so this is the Far East, but there's but it's a lot shorter than those distances. So no, is there any meaning? I don't think so. I think George has made a mistake by giving them so much power and having them be so close, especially Bravos. Like Bravos having that like number of ships under their control and being right there. Yeah, there's no reason they shouldn't be. The Mel being Rhaegar theory is actually so funny. Stannis being super serious while betting her totally not noticing there's only one hole while Rhaegar is moaning and calling him king is so funny. Right. I mean, if you want to get dirty about it, like Stannis, it could be a situation where like, okay, there's a glamour. He's glamored over his penis and he knows that Stannis would think that vaginal sex with Mel is cheating and he doesn't want to commit adultery. So he's convinced himself that to do the loophole, right? And that works in like Rhaegar's favor because he doesn't actually have a physical vagina. And so he's just like, well, there's a loophole. You're not really cheating on your wife if it's not vaginal sex, and Stannis like totally buys it and is like, okay, let's do it. And it's really Rhaegar the entire time, glamored. Has Preston ever met John Waters? I have met John Waters, but very briefly. Very briefly. He used to hang at this one bar that I've been to a few times. But yeah, no, he drives up. He drove a pink Cadillac and would sit out in front. And but I have met John Waters. I didn't really, say anything. I was just like, hey, that's it. Ooh, if slavery was legal in Westeros, would Ned Stark own a slave? I probably. He has all sorts of workers and everything. So I think, it'd be one of those situations where he'd have them because everybody else had them and his father had them and his father's father had them. And he just kind of was continuing the tradition. He'd probably treat them nicely and probably come up with he'd invent in his head some moral reason why it was fine, just like Jefferson did. Jefferson was against slavery and owned slaves. So, if he was able to, and if he was able to square that, I'm sure Ned could square it. Will you review House of the Dragon and The Boys at the same time? Obviously House of the Dragon is going to take complete and utter precedence over The Boys. I can't not put out a House of the Dragon video. If I do anything with The Boys, it's cutting into all of my time with House of the Dragon, and everything has to be focused on House of the Dragon when House of the Dragon is out. That's just everything gets dropped and it's all House of the Dragon. Preston says wild cards, me triggered. Yeah, I know. Hello. How goes it?
Yeah, you can. We're gonna do it at the same time, boy. We're gonna pump those. Those are some rookie numbers last time. We're gonna pump that bitch out. Woo!
I'm not. I can do Boys stuff afterwards, but we're not. Are they really gonna premiere at the same time?
Probably, maybe. Boys will probably come a little bit first, and then afterwards, House of the Dragon. If they're smart, they do House of the Dragon at the very end.
Yeah. At some point though, there's so many shows that they can't worry about each other. But yeah, what's been going on with you, man?
Real quick. So tomorrow, we gonna record Clash for your favorite segments on that thing.
Yeah. So we did the going over the changes to a Game of Thrones. Carmine and I are gonna talk about this week the changes to Clash based on G Steph's research. and that should be fun. That should be fun.
And then after that, a couple days later, we'll do Storm.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
then so I can't. I listened to, or I tried to at least, our convo with G Stuff.
Hmm.
God, it was so bad. It was so, not the conversation was bad, just the audio quality is so
I was like,
bad.
what? I thought our conversation was pretty
It's
good.
so no, the conversation was fine. It's just so fucking garbage. If I put that on Patreon, people can be like, I pay 99 cents for this.
Well, I
Which
mean, I think people would rather
99
have the
cents.
conversation versus nothing.
Sure, that's also fair. It's just fuck, man. It's so bad. Like it sounds like we're all using mics from like 1987. It's ridiculous. It's
Hmm.
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just. I'll send it to you. You can listen to it. It's really bad. It's
Sure,
really bad.
sure. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm sure it's bad. I'm sure it's not as bad as you say because you're really picky when it comes to
No, that is not
your stuff.
true. That is not true. That is not true. That is still not true. I want it to sound decent. Decent. I want us to have like a professional setup going, at least, or look like it. Something.
Yeah, I know. Why share a consciousness with a wolf but not Hodor's? This is very true. Why in the story do the Stark children share consciousnesses with their wolves? You know, they're feeling each other's they're blending together, but Bran doesn't share a consciousness with Hodor. Instead, he pushes Hodor's consciousness down, um, and doesn't blend with him. There, there is no good reason. I think it's just an error on George's part. Maybe we need to come up with some good reason that there's just something dark about Hodor's consciousness that like Bran didn't want to actually deal with, and that was the reason he wasn't blending or something. But you know you're right though that it doesn't make sense that the telepathy works fundamentally differently in these two situations. I don't know. Any reasons that you can think of, Carmine?
Garrett should have been interrogated by Jeor. Any reasons why he wouldn't be? What?
No, you weren't paying attention.
Wait, about the wolf thing?
Yeah.
What was that question again? Go back to that.
So Carmine, what we're talking about is
Why do you say it like that, dude? Why the fuck you say it like that?
what we're talking about here is when Bran or the other Stark children, when they warg their wolves, the process doesn't involve them suppressing the wolf's consciousness. It involves their consciousness blending with the wolf's consciousness and then
Okay.
both existing together in the body. So, like when Bran is Summer, Summer is still kind of there. But it's Bran. They're together as one.
Mm-hmm.
But when Bran wargs Hodor, Hodor is not blended with Bran. Hodor is instead pushed down. There's no Hodor like, you know, when Bran is Summer, he's like, I'm stalking a prey and there's blood and there's a
Yeah, he loves
tree,
it. Yeah.
you know. But when he's
This
with
is gonna sound like an
Hodor, it's not
asshole
like
thing to
Bran is
say.
like Hodor went to the door, Hodor. Like he doesn't have Hodor's personality.
I always
But
thought it was because this is gonna sound so fucked up. I always thought because Hodor is kind of, I always thought like Bran's consciousness is so powerful it just automatically pushes him down regardless.
I mean,
Because Hodor is not completely all there. That's what I always
you
thought.
think like a wolf's conscious, like a wolf's like personality is somehow strong? It's a
Maybe not
dog.
stronger, but like not strong enough, not weak enough to where it gets pushed off out automatically. So
Yeah. I think it's a bit error, but I think in reality it's George's error. But I think if you're gonna have a headcanon to it, it's that there's something dark and mysterious and off about Hodor's uh, personality that Bran has decided not to blend with, you know, or something like that. But yes, Gared should have been interrogated by Jeor. Yeah, absolutely. They should have brought him back to the wall and then had him interrogated and then, you know, had Jeor decide what to do with him. I don't think it should have been Ned's call. I think Jeor's call, if any, he's the one that's the head of the Night's Watch. It's his organization. Um, and that's then there would have been time. There would have been time to interrogate him and talk to him about all these different things. It's true. Ned should have kept Gared prisoner and then given to Benjen when he came for interrogation, but Ned was too bloodthirsty. Here's the other thing: is that Ned is bringing his sons with him before he even leaves Winterfell. Ned has already decided that he's going to execute this dude when he leaves. Like, this is like, there was no like hope. There was no like, well, I interviewed the guy and I realized he needed to die. He got a letter or whatever, a message, a rider that was like, dude, we caught this deserter of the Night's Watch. Well, he's just speaking gibberish. We don't really know what's going on. Better kill him. Bring the kids. Like, what? Like, the more you examine it, the more fucked up Ned is. Like, we found a deserter from the Night's Watch. Better bring my 7-year-old because I'm gonna cut this guy's head off. Like, what the fuck? Gared was a dribbling idiot. Probably had his brain frozen as well. What's wrong with the mess? Yeah, I mean, what is wrong with this message, Google? For fuck's sake. I mean, maybe that's it. Like, because the others were nearby, he got too cold and he like froze his brain or something. But he was able to get over the wall, so he was smart enough to get over the wall. So at least worked that much. That's the other thing. He's like a babbling idiot, right? So how is he babbling to get through the black gate? Don't you have to like say the words to get through the black gate? So he like scrambled over the wall. He was able to get all the ropes and grappling hooks and everything to get over the wall. None of it makes sense. It's fine. It's fine. For the setting, Essos is just the Middle East, which was far richer than Europe in the Middle Ages. Just look up the great bullion shortage. It's not that different places weren't wealthy in the Middle Ages. They were, and in fact, the big problem with why different groups didn't conquer is that there wasn't really unity. Like, a lot of people say, like, couldn't Europe pull together an army to like retake the Middle East and all that and deal with them? And it's like, probably, but they all hated each other, so they were not really unified. And that's kind of like the idea, I suppose, with the free cities, that they're not unified, and so like no single one of them can take Westeros. But then we hear about these like moments of alliance, like the Triarchy and stuff like that, which don't really square with that idea. So, and plus just the number of ships that they gave to the Braavosi. I mean, I want to say there's some sort of, I want to say, like, how many ships are the Braavosi given? I've got maybe the wiki will say, because I remember some like ridiculous number. Because Braavos is the wealthiest and most powerful, and then they've got because I remember something about like how many ships they can like make in in like a week and things like that. And it's just like this unrealistic amount. Well, but it's like, do they have like 1,000? Like the Sea Lord. Well. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a good analogy because the because like like with the Umayyads didn't have like a navy and stuff like that. And then when the North Africa started getting like really good ships, they weren't really unified. When you're talking about the the Berberi pirate period and stuff like that, and so had they, but I don't know, like even that situation there, we're not talking like the amount of shit, the amount of wealth that Bravos has or the amount of wealth that Karth has or whatever. um do you think Stannis could have forced a betrothal between Tommen and Shireen, but acting like Tommen was trueborn before the events of a Game of Thrones? Like if I'm trying to think of I think in Stannis's head, um Shireen would need somebody super important, and the problem is that Tommen is um is not the heir to the throne. Joffrey is. I think like a Joffrey, like I'm not, but I'm thinking more of like a Joffrey Shireen marriage, like um but Joffrey was already trying to, what they were already trying to marry Joffrey to. Well, wait a minute. So when Robert is alive, Tommen is believed to be half Baratheon. So um they would be cousins, I suppose, right? Tommen and Shireen are on paper cousins. So that marriage would be okay. But is Tommen even, Tommen's not quite good enough for Shireen in Stannis's mind. Well, I'm sure what Stannis wanted would probably be a Joffrey Shireen marriage is probably what he thought would be appropriate. And therefore, like, Shireen would become queen, and at least his grandson would be king or whatever. I'm sure that's what like Stannis wanted, but of course he had a problem with Robert, and Robert didn't really like Stannis, and so that really wasn't going to happen. A Joffrey Shireen marriage. Plus, Stannis is around Joffrey. He probably knows that Joffrey's a piece of shit. They grew up together. So, but like later would Stannis have leverage and things like this, like discovering the incest and stuff? Like if Stannis discovered the incest, he could have probably, maybe there would be a situation where he could leverage a Shireen Joffrey marriage for peace. But I don't. It's just not in Stannis's personality, because Stannis wants to be king. He doesn't want Shireen to be king. Or Shireen. He wants to be king. He thinks he should be king. That's the justice of it, right? Um. Yeah, it's just, yeah. In the pre Robert's death period, like Robert wouldn't go for it just because they've got brother tension. And then in the post, like he already knows that they're bastards, and there's no way he would do it. And plus, he would want to be king. Shade is a Song of Ice and Fire tobacco, nightshade. But does it provide protection from moon-related gas candle brain interference?
We
Um,
had this discussion a while ago that there is no like tobacco in Ice and Fire. I'm pretty sure shade, nightshade is, I think it's either a poison or a medicine. I remember Tyrion in Pycelle's office noticing
yeah.
it. And unless you're talking about Shade of the Evening, which I think is like a drink that the warlocks drink. turns their lips blue. Pretty sure that's not tobacco either.
Yeah, nightshade is deadly in the world of Ice and Fire. Um, the and then yeah, I don't think there's any tobacco. I've never heard of anything called shade by itself. Just oh wait, shade. No, shade is there's shade of the evening, and there's also a galley called shade. But yeah, shade of the evening. Shade of the evening, I think allows for more um, telepathic abilities. Probably makes you more susceptible to brain interference because you're like opening your mind to the telepathy, the psychotropic drug,
So it's
right?
the water of life from Dune.
It is. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, by the way, I haven't seen Dune 2, but I read some articles that kind of tear it apart in a nitpicker like logic of the story sense. They're like
How
that's a
so?
well, they kind of say like there's a bunch of so generally speaking, the plot of Dune is that the entire prophecy of um of Paul being the chosen one is Bene Gesserit bullshit. But there's like some stuff that's like predicted that he has visions about that like um are that are part of the story anyway. Even though it should be Bene Gesserit bullshit. But
So I've been going into the material lately, and
mm,
finally going into the material, fucking aggro wherever the fuck you are. Uh, I apparently the breeding program was to collect all the memories and genetics of all these other families, and because from my understanding, from what I just read, the Bene Gesserit was expecting there to be someone like Paul, but Paul came too soon. They needed Leto and Jessica to have a girl,
yeah,
so she would grow up to eventually marry Fade, and from that union would come the
right,
person they were waiting for. But I guess Paul came too early, and that fucked with their plans a little. So
yeah.
they were expecting some kind of person with power, just not on Paul's level. That's to my understanding.
Right, right. They were playing around with genetics,
Hmm.
and we're thinking that the genetic lines were going to activate later on, but they activated kind of like earlier. Um, that's all true, but I think it's like from what I hear, and I haven't seen Dune 2, there's like more mysticism in in the movie that doesn't really square with like what like the fact that like it's all bull. But whatever. I have to see the movie before I can comment on it. So
Yeah,
we'll
go watch
see.
it. Go watch it in IMAX. It's a religious experience, from what I'm told.
Yeah, I know. If Yoren worked for Varys, does Varys know he took Arya? That is a good question because so assuming Yoren works for Varys, which again is a big Preston assumption, right? Well, I wouldn't say assumption, but like I say that Yoren works for Varys um because Varys is talking about um, Varys is talking about Catelyn kidnapping Tyrion in the chapter in Arya 3. So Arya hears Varys talking to Illyrio about this, and then she goes to her dad Ned to warn him, and Yoren comes in to tell him about the kidnapping, which means somehow Varys found out before Ned, and yet Yoren rode fast from the inn and got all the way to King's Landing. So either somebody was on a horse riding faster than Yoren at the same night at the same inn, or Yoren first went to Varys and then went to Ned. Um, which means Yoren is one of Varys' creatures. And then there's which makes sense because later you find out that Varys did pay Yoren to take Gendry, and he was supposed to take Ned and things like this. So Yoren, I would say Yoren is fairly confidently Varys' creature. But when Yoren grabs Arya, it's by surprise that he runs into her. And they set off, and I'm trying to think if there's any way for Yoren to communicate back to Varys that he has her on their route. Like, does he send anybody? Like, does he? Are there any riders? Does he send a raven? Like, none of these things. He does have a cage of ravens, but they're supposed to be like being returned, right? Oh, maybe that's it. I mean, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, he's got. They took 5 wagons, hides, bolts of cloth, bars of pig iron, a cage of ravens. So the ravens are supposed to be like ravens that he's returning to the wall, but it's very like he could just have his own raven that he sends to Varys. But then again, Varys doesn't really use ravens, right? It would get like any raven would be intercepted by Pycelle. He would need some other way to communicate. Unless the raven doesn't go to Winterfell. The raven could go to like a nearby area and then have somebody communicate to Varys. So it's not that Yoren doesn't possibly have means of communication. Like, I suppose he could send some rider off that Arya didn't notice back to King's Landing, or send one of those ravens somewhere. It's certainly possible. Or, maybe there's a raven that can be trained to go somewhere besides the Red Keep to Pycelle. So I'm saying that, like, it may be that Yoren didn't have the chance, but he does have all these opportunities to communicate back to Varys, I think. All right. What's your favorite part of the show in the last 3 seasons regarding the story plot? I guess P.S. Hey, Carmine. I'm from Wichita. Sorry and welcome. Let me think of the last 3 seasons, and like, what were some good ones? Hold on. Let me see. Episode, Game of Thrones, seasons? We're talking season 6.
6, 7, 8, yeah.
7 and 8. Okay, so season 6. The episodes are The Red Woman, Home, Oathbreaker, Book of Stranger, The Door, Blood of My Blood, The Broken Man, No One, Battle of the Bastards, and The Winds of Winter. The first time I saw The Door, I was blown away by that episode. I understand that, like, Gladys hates that episode. He hates it really a lot, and he makes very valid criticisms on why that episode is horrible. But I will say
what's his criticism of it, if you don't mind, because that's a good one, but huh?
Yeah, no, I think he ranks it as one of his like worst. And I'm trying to remember like why exactly. I think he just doesn't like. Well, one, I think if we go with the other, I'm trying to think of, maybe it was the other plot lines.
Oh yeah, no, because
the door right is that. Also like the door is also the Kingsmoot.
Oh no, is it actually?
Yeah.
That was. Do you remember Euron's cringe line?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Where's
do.
my nephew and niece? Let's go murder them. Like that was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
bad. So bad. It was funny for like
yeah.
a minute when like they think they've killed him by drowning him.
Hmm. So,
And then it's
so,
like
so when you like, I mean, it's not like I wasn't like blown away by the ending of the door, and I just remember being like, "Whoa, that was a good episode." But then, like when you point out the other moments, okay, so in Bravos, um, Arya gets the assignment to kill Lady Crane, and so she goes to see the play. I think her seeing the play was fine. It was whatever. In the Dothraki Sea, Jor reveals his grayscale to Daenerys, admits that his love for her, and Daenerys orders him to find a cure and return home. That's pretty stupid. that's that's pretty dumb. Plus, like, how many like touching scenes do we need between Jorah and Dany? It's just it's a gross relationship between them, and I remember them trying to make it all like touching. You go off and find a cure, okay? All right, you can beat it. Um, in Marine, Tyrion summons the priestess Kinvara, who agrees to preach. Um,
that goes
that
nowhere,
goes
and we
nowhere.
never see
Yeah,
her again. By the way, Danny telling Jorah to go find a cure. It's her politely saying, "Bro, get out of here. What
I
are you
know,
doing?
I
You're gonna
know.
get us
You're
infected.
gonna
Get
get
the
us
fuck
all
out of here."
infected. Yeah. I mean, it's literally, it's yeah, yeah. It's. I was gonna make a very bad joke about like it's like pretend the year is it's like 1987 and no one knows anything about HIV yet, and you're like go off and find that cure. Like what are you talking about? Like oh, no one knows anything about curing this. Um, on the Iron Isles, they have the Kingsmoot. At the Wall, Sansa confronts Littlefinger about the decision for her to marry Ramsay. Littlefinger, that's right. Littlefinger jetpack gets him to the Wall, and then she decides to. They decide to go down to send Brienne to River Run, and so yeah, so I get why there's a lot of reasons to actually not like that episode. But and the time travel does go nowhere. The time travel does fucking go nowhere. I think at the time I was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be fucking incredible. How is this time travel like gonna affect things?" It doesn't. It doesn't go anywhere. Oh god, but we're supposed to be searching for things we liked about. Battle of the Bastards. What did you think of the Battle of the Bastards? You thought that was pretty good?
I liked it. Yeah, I thought Battle of the Bastards was pretty cool. Um, the the um the door moment, hold the door moment, that was great. Uh, what else? That's just season 6. The Arthur Dane fight was awesome. They actually included Howland Reed in there,
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to
so they didn't
think.
have to do that, but they did. It was a nod to the book fans because do show watchers really care or even know the Reed sigil? I don't think the
Yeah.
House Reed sigil ever pops up. So
In
show watchers were
fact,
like,
in fact, they that one artist, his name is he's named after the guy from Sirius. I think it's Sirius something. Not Ice and Fire artwork. So there's this one online artist who um who would just for fun make like back like wallpaper, like desktop wallpapers. And I think his name was it was something like Sirius um House Read, something like that. Wallpaper. They took his like sigil that he invented for it. Um, yeah, that's oh, wow. So I want to say so when Game of Thrones came out, HBO had a whole set of like wallpapers that you could do. And then he decided that he would do it in the same style and kind of invent his own. And so this isn't by HBO, even though it's in the bottom here. That's added by him. But then because this was online, I think the creators thought that this was actually the sigil, and so they took his art and like put it in the show, or his interpretation of it. Which
There's actually one other thing that's
I suppose they have the copyright, but whatever.
there's another a really cool piece of someone on my server said this, and I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it. Maybe it was my server. Someone said how they're in art school right now, and apparently their graphic design teacher is the same guy who's like one of the most prolific artists in the A Song of Ice and Fire community, and he was showing him a bunch of like these pictures that you use in your videos to this day.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot who it was. Was that you who told me that, or no, it was someone else who told me that.
I mean,
Regardless, it doesn't matter. Like, but yeah, these guys are just, they should get credit for all this. Did that guy end up getting credit?
No. His name, yeah, Sirius Crane was the guy. He didn't. He saw it and he was like, oh, and he like mentioned it. He's like, whoa, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
They took my design. Okay.
No, so yeah, like season 6, like those were the cool moments. Battle of Bastards was cool.
Yeah, it's really well. I mean, Battle of Bastards was pretty exciting. A lot of blood. I get. I mean, I think I did like some of the shots of from that. I'm just trying to remember if there's anything I really liked about anything in season 7. Or season 8. I mean, I kind of like Brienne's like moment at the end, writing Jaime's entry into the book.
But then she closes it without letting the ink dry. Like, there's so many cool moments. She closes
it without letting the ink dry, but I still like the scene.
There's so many cool moments that, like, in theory, that would be great. And then in execution, it's like, why did you do that one thing to ruin it? No!
There's not too much with season 8 that I like. I'll grant that.
You did like one thing, though, that I'm surprised you're forgetting.
The Podrick 3-way?
No. The fact that... Okay, hold on, give me a minute. The fact that Arya didn't end up killing Ilyn Payne.
Oh, she never got him. Ilyn Payne survived. Yeah.
She never got you, dude. She never got you. Made it to the end.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All that was fine. Oh, but it's funny that we have to like search for little. You know what? I kind of liked the speech, the broken man, like the portrayal of Septon Maribald.
Septon Ray.
Septon Ray. Is that season 6?
That's 6, yeah.
I liked Septon Ray. Septon Ray was pretty nice. I liked that whole thing. I liked that. He was a good addition. I'm trying to think of anything else though. Hodor has giant's blood, another creature made by children for slaves. Their skin changing was manufactured that way instead of being a natural thing. Oh, this is for the explanation of why Hodor's consciousness just goes down. I think I would I don't know if it's. I mean, I understand like like everybody keeps saying it over and over again that Hodor has giant's blood and everything, but I kind of just like the. But when we meet giants, they're not just big people. They're very hairy, like completely different Yeti kind of animals that couldn't possibly mate with a human being, and Hodor doesn't look like that, you know. I kind of just like the idea that Hodor was just a really big guy. He was a really great knight, you know. But but yeah, if but could it just be that? I mean, we don't even need him to be a giant. It's just that like human consciousness like functions differently than wolf consciousness and doesn't blend. But we kind of know that human consciousness does blend because we have the House of the Undying. So I don't even know. Or like glass candles. We know that human consciousness does blend. So I don't know. Uh, Um, is sour leaf werewood leaves? I don't know. Something we don't really think about. Imported, transported in bales. I mean, it's interesting that it spits out like the blood red stuff and everything, but I'm trying to think of like the thing is we do see people like chewing sour leaf all over. Exporting it from the you'd need like farms and everything, like werewood farms. I mean, it's a kind of a cool concept that it would actually be werewood leaves that we find out later, but there would have to be some sort of like northern sour leaf farm where they have werewoods, like a whole bunch of them, because there wouldn't be enough like having like one werewood in your god's wood and you're picking the leaves off. That's not enough for like the global sour leaf like you know consumption. Like you need a farm. Um, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you. I tried to go to a St. Patrick's parade on Sunday with the kids, but it was far too crowded, and we weren't able to park, and we missed the whole thing. Good times. Um, Suppose Ned is sterile. Who who are the father, kingly prerogative, um, and incest encouraged in speculation. Also, Maester's lie about Nightshade. Well, if Ned's sterile, uh, like who's been having sex with Catelyn all this time? The thing is, like, we know that that he has to be the father of Rob. Um, you know, but because we're specifically told that like 9 moons after they had sex that like Rob came out. Um, you know, unless the idea is that you know she loses her virginity to Ned and then immediately starts banging someone. Um, like she starts banging Maester Luwin, and we don't hear about you know Maester Luwin is in River Run for some reason. This is the other thing is that like Catelyn once makes an error and says that all five of her children that Luwin birthed all five of her children when she birthed one at River Run, and so it's like what was Maester Luwin doing there? But I guess it would have to be some. I don't know. Maester Lewin's the only person that really it could be. Um, Unless I mean, I suppose Roderick is Roderick Cassell around. Has he been following her around the entire time? Wasn't he in the war? Oh, oh, oh. Lewin's the father of all the kids. Somehow that would change a lot. It would change a lot. Um, is that at war when Bran or Arya was conceived? I'm trying to think. Um, he's at war last with the Greyjoy rebellion. The Greyjoy rebellion is what, 89, and so if the Greyjoy rebellion is in 89, it's any child that's born in the year 90, more or less. Which I want to say Sansa is born in Sansa's born in 86. What's Arya? Arya Arya's born in Arya's born in 89. Uh Probably not Arya, but is Bran just a year younger than Arya? Um Yeah, Bran is the one that could possibly be conceived when Ned is off at war. I guess he's the most special one that, like, something weird happened. The thing, Lewin was at River Run. He wasn't at Winterfell. One of the weird things about the story, um, of Lewin, because obviously, like, Maester Wallace is the Winterfell, um, Maester, at least at the time of a lot of the betrothals, which happened a few years earlier, but nonetheless. Um, Maester Wallace is the Winterfell one. However, so you can kind of say, like, okay, maybe Lewin was the River Run Maester, and then he followed Catelyn, to um, to the north. The problem is that the River Run Maester is named, like, Vipren or Vyman, and Vyman is an old Maester, um, but and Catelyn seems to, like, have known him for a while. Like, she's rather familiar with him. But then they also mention that, like, Littlefinger and Lysa mentioned that the Maester that forced her to have the abortion is dead. And while that is true of Lewin, if Lewin was the one that made Lysa have the abortion, but I don't know if they would have had news of it, or he kind of says it in a way as if he died a long time ago. Um, you kind of get that kind of feeling about the comment, but because he says that's past and done, Lysa. Lord Hoster's dead, and his old Maester as well. I mean, I suppose Hoster only died fairly recently, so maybe the old Maester could be Lewin, and he died as well. That Maester Luwin is the one that gave Lysa the abortion. Um, I mean, that it's one of those things where it's like, well, technically speaking, this would have to be the case, right? That, like, Kat said that Maester Luwin birthed all of her kids, so Maester Luwin must have been the River Run Maester, and they said that old Maester was dead and Luwin is dead. So, Maester Luwin is the one that gave Lysa the abortion. It kind of adds all these things where it's like, I don't think George was thinking about all of that, but technically speaking, if we're following the text, that must be true. Like, it's one of these weird things. um, where do others go during the day and babies? I don't, I think wasn't Sam's run in with the other during the day? Um, like, I don't think that was at night. I think that was during day. So I think the others can walk around during the day, right? Fine. So I think that's it. But now I don't know what they do with their babies, how they keep the babies alive. I mean, or what they do to them. They put them in suits. That's it. That's about it. So Carmine, any last things that you want to chat about? I've got to head to bed pretty soon, so maybe
Pretty soon. What do you got doing?
I've got fairly important things to do tomorrow. I can't be chatting about ice and fire until the wee hours.
When do you want to record Clash stuff?
I can probably do it tomorrow night if you want.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Okay.
I'm 110% down for that. Prepare, bro, because a couple months, House of the Dragon, and then The Boys. We got to cover that. We'll have Ness on because he's read the comics. For that, Star Wars Acolyte, I think, is also coming out around that time.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Prologue is during the day. The moon is up. The moon is up. So they specifically say it's twilight in the prologue, but yeah. Oh, are you talking about prologue of Clash? Prologue of Storm is during the day. Yeah. So Sam is yeah. Prologue of Storm is during the day. If you're talking about that, yeah. Okay. Okay. Um. All right. Sounds good. Anyway, thank you everyone for being with me. I will talk to you guys soon, and see you guys next time. Thanks again. Later.